Chapter 33, The Classic of Mountains and Seas is actually the civilization trial manual of ancient ancestors. Convene this press conference. The most important purpose is to stabilize people's hearts and give the people of China a reassurance that there will be no civil strife, but now is better. Yang Mo directly told the cruel truth about the civilized trial, shattered the last illusions and hopes in everyone's hearts. People, can they withstand the impact of this truth? He is too hasty. Wang Yi frowned when he thought of this. Suddenly I felt a little regretful. Had I known, Yang Mo would not have been allowed to host this press conference. Now that this scene was happening nationwide, it was too late for him to stop it even if he wanted to. At this time, the reporters in the audience reacted with excitement. It seems like some big news has been discovered. Come forward enthusiastically. Questions were raised, ask one question after another. Dean Yang, you just said that the civilization trial will not stop unless the level is cleared or destroyed. Then, how many rounds are there in the civilization trial? Behind the civilization trial, is it an alien civilization in the universe? How do you know these things? The Research Institute in the United States has put forward a completely different conclusion, believing that the civilization trial is about to end. What you said are all personal speculations. Is there any evidence? Every question, they are all very sharp, thorough and incisive. However, faced with doubts, Yang Mo did not panic at all. The corners of his mouth turned up slightly. Another more exciting news was revealed. Actually, this is not the first time that the Earth has encountered the test of civilization. The words just finished, everyone in the house was shocked. For those reporters who raised various questions, you looked at me and I looked at you, confused. Earth, have you ever encountered a civilization test before? When did it happen? Did they suffer collective amnesia? Why don't you have any impression at all? Similarly confused. As well as the people across China, everyone is confused. Of course you have no impression. Yang Mo smiled slightly and said calmly, the last civilization trial happened 5,000 years ago. As soon as these words came out, all the reporters widened their eyes again, suddenly feeling that their brain capacity was not enough. 5,000 years ago, it seems that there was no Chinese civilization yet, right? The Earth is full of a group of uncivilized savages. Who are they qualified to participate in the civilized trial? Can they stop these ferocious and cruel monsters? Everyone. Here, I want to remind everyone. When everyone was lost, Yang Mo's voice sounded faintly. The Earth has evolved for 4.6 billion years. Are you sure that only modern civilization was born? Hearing this, the reporters at the scene were stunned again. Not indeed. As Yang Mo said, 4.6 billion years is too long. Many mainstream scholars in modern times firmly believe that other civilizations have appeared in the history of the Earth, just for some reason annihilated in the long river of history, and modern civilization was developed on the basis of the four ancient civilizations. They are ancient Egypt, ancient Babylon, ancient India, and China. Before that, there are also the disappeared Mesopotamian civilization, Mayan civilization, Atlantis civilization, etc. Have you ever wondered about those things that have ever been born on the Earth? Why did all the ancient civilizations become extinct? While everyone was thinking, Yang Mo continued, yes, they encountered the test of civilization and failed to withstand the test, so they were buried forever. In the long history. His tone was low, telling about the past events in the long history of the Earth. Actually, what he said was researched by historians in previous lives. After the civilization trial appeared, historians, paleontologists, and geoevolutionists have joined forces and discovered many clues of ancient civilizations. Final confirmation: civilizations on Earth are mysteriously extinct, all related to the civilization trial. In the vast universe. As long as civilization develops to a certain stage, it will be pulled into the trial field by a mysterious force, or it will be tested and the fittest will survive. Backstage of the press conference. Civilized trials have existed since ancient times? Wang Yu opened his mouth wide, and Gulo swallowed his saliva, looking blankly at Yang Mo in front of the stage. Forget about ordinary people, even he is a little confused now. The black hand that led to the successive destruction of Earth's civilizations was all because of civilization trials. These are your own words. What evidence do you have? At this moment, a female reporter in the audience reacted first and raised the question again. Other reporters also came to their senses and cast questioning glances at Yang Mo. It's not them who are the masters, mainly because what Yang Mo said was too outrageous, of course. Faced with everyone's doubts, Yang Mo still looked normal. In front of the camera, take out a book from the bag behind you. This book is the evidence. Everyone was stunned, looking blankly at the book in Yang Mo's hand. The Classic of Mountains and Seas? That's right, the book in Yang Mo's hand is an ancient Chinese book. The Classic of Mountains and Seas. Is it evidence? The corners of the reporters' mouths twitched a few times and they couldn't help asking. Yang Mo nodded, with a serious expression. He said in a deep voice, "Its origin is mysterious. Many people think that it was written during the Warring States period, but, in fact, its appearance is earlier than the history of Chinese civilization. It's actually a civilization trial manual left by the ancient ancestors." The words just finished, the entire conference site became dead silent again. I was shocked by Yang Mo's words, the Classic of Mountains and Seas. Almost every Chinese person knows this book, but they never thought that this would be the civilization trial manual of the ancient ancestors. You may find it incredible. Yang Mo glanced at everyone, sighed and asked, "But this is the fact. Do you still remember the appearance and characteristics of the 001 Immortal? Goat horn human face, 4 feet on the ground, scales all over the body, extremely strong defense." Following. He dropped another bombshell. And in the Nancy Yirjing, this kind of monster is clearly recorded. The original text is, Xuanshan, its yang is made of gold, its yin is made of jade, there is a beast, its shape is like a sheep, it cannot be killed, and its name is. As soon as these words came off, the reporters at the scene were shocked. A male reporter immediately stepped forward and took the Book of Mountains and Seas from Yang Mo's hand. Follow the index, flip through quickly. I found this passage from the second Nancy Sutra, looking horrified, took several steps back. It's true, it's true. He thought that Yang Mo was just talking nonsense, but he didn't expect that there was actually an original text in the Classic of Mountains and Seas, also named this monster. Remembering that the Monster Research Institute named him the Undead, everyone reacted instantly on site. Suddenly there was a series of gasps. Chapter 34. The ancient ancestors passed the civilization trial and the whole country soared. Looks like a sheep not to be killed. This is so similar to the appearance and characteristics of the undead. At the same time, China, all over the country, countless people in front of the TV and in the live broadcast room looked at Yang Mo in shock, looking shocked. I couldn't calm down for a long time. Dean Yang said that 5,000 years ago, the Earth also encountered a civilization test, so our ancient ancestors of China recorded the monsters they encountered in the Book of Mountains and Seas? I feel like my 9 years of study were in vain. Isn't the Classic of Mountains and Seas just a novel about ghosts and monsters? It is not a novel about ghosts and monsters. It records many mountains and landforms in ancient times, plants, animals, mineral resources, etc., can be called an ancient encyclopedia. What Dean Yang said is true or false? In the live broadcast room, tens of millions of netizens are watching the broadcast of the press conference, and everyone's eyes are wide open, swallowing crazily, seems to be digesting this shocking secret thrown out by Yang Mo. Actually, if you study the Book of Mountains and Seas carefully, you will find many clues. Yang Mo's voice continued to come and netizens pricked up their ears again and listened carefully. The Classic of Mountains and Seas was written by ancient ancestors. Why do there appear so many strange non-Earth species in it? Why are 80% of these strange beasts based on humans? Food? Why are the remaining 20% of strange beasts accompanied by various disasters when they appear? The Mesopotamian civilization with extremely advanced mathematics, the Soviet Union with extremely in-depth research on cosmic astronomy. Why did the Maya civilization, the Mayan civilization that was proficient in architecture, and the Atlantis civilization all collapse at the same time? Yang Mo talked eloquently and once again exposed various unreasonable things. It aroused deep thinking among netizens. Non-terrestrial creatures, all like to feed on humans, alien beasts have magical powers. Once they appear, they will be followed by huge disasters, with countless casualties. Aren't these all signs of the trials of civilization? Monsters come to the Earth from unknown space with the purpose of destroying civilization. Hiss. It's terrifying to think about it. In the live broadcast room, the more netizens think about it, the more frightened they become, and the more they think about it, the more scared they become. 5,000 years ago, all civilizations on Earth have experienced a civilization test, then, the entire army was wiped out. Are they all lost in the long river of history? The United States Department of Defense, hearing that China held a press conference, Jobs immediately asked his secretary to pull up the news footage just opened. I saw Yang Mo take out a book and said that it was a civilization trial manual left by the ancient ancestors of China. That's nonsense. Jobs sneered, scorned what Yang Mo said, but as Yang Mo gradually analyzed, his expression became more and more solemn. The Classic of Mountains and Seas, the appearance of the 001 immortal has long been recorded and named the monster that appears. They all like to eat people, and all are accompanied by various disasters. This, there were fine beads of sweat on his forehead, and his lips felt dried out. A truth he didn't want to believe. It was gradually revealed in Yang Mo's mouth and gradually surfaced. 5,000 years ago, many splendid civilizations were born on the earth at that time. On the screen, Yang Mo took a deep breath and said solemnly, "It has reached the standards of the civilized trial. Like us, it was pulled into the trial by the mysterious force. So, various monsters that do not belong to the earth are coming one after another, and disasters occur frequently. Every civilization is resisting to the death, fighting desperately, leaving behind countless epic legends." But, speaking of this, Yang Mo changed the topic and sighed deeply. Once the civilized trial starts, it will not stop. The monsters are getting stronger and stronger. They carry the power to destroy the world and are called gods. Jobs was trembling and slowly lowered his head. He seemed to have seen what happened to ancient civilizations. The trial has reached the later stage. The monsters are becoming more and more terrifying, carrying the power to destroy heaven and earth. It swept across the world and destroyed the world. Eventually, all civilizations, they were all destroyed in that civilized trial. Earth returned to deathly silence, until thousands of years later. No, there was a civilization that was not destroyed at that time. Yang Mo's next sentence made Jobs raise his head, suddenly staring at the screen. Yanjing, a press conference scene. Everyone held their breath and focused on Yang Mo on the stage. The scene was silent. I could clearly hear everyone's breathing, which was a little rapid. Everyone wants to know who the civilization is that has not been destroyed. Intuition tells them that civilization is closely related to them. That's right. Yang Mo held the microphone and said in a very proud tone that civilization is the ancient Chinese civilization, the civilization created by our ancestors. In previous lives, after Huaxia resisted one round of civilization trials after another, they were surprised to find that the monsters above all came from the Book of Mountains and Seas. So, separate the cocoon, continuous pursuit. Finally, an incredible truth was discovered, that is, 5,000 years ago, the ancient Chinese ancestors who were also born on this land were not destroyed. They are the only civilization that survived. Dean Yang, didn't you just say that once the civilized trial starts, it will not stop? The reporters were keenly aware of the loopholes and asked a sharp question. Since it won't stop, how did the ancestors survive? Since it survived, then why did the ancient ancestors, like other civilizations, disappear from the earth? It's simple. Faced with doubt, Yang Mo smiled slightly and said something shocking again. The ancient ancestors passed the civilization test and their country has already ascended. This sentence, it was like a bomb had been dropped in deep water across China. Countless people watching the live broadcast were even more shocked. Clear the trial. The whole country is soaring. Is this really possible? Yang. Dean Yang, do you have any evidence for saying this? After a while, a reporter swallowed and couldn't help but ask. I have said before, the classic of Mountains and Seas is the civilization trial manual of ancient ancestors. Yang Mo shrugged and raised the Book of Mountains and Seas in his hand. He asked, do you think that a civilization that is about to collapse will produce such a complete manual and let it be passed down? The words just finished, the reporter's expression lit up and he quickly realized what he was saying. A civilization about to be destroyed, there is no time, thought, or ability to create a trial manual. Only civilizations that have passed all trials are qualified to produce trial manuals. In the same period, the Mesopotamian civilization, Atlantis civilization, Mayan civilization, Sumerian civilization, none of the ancient books similar to the classic of Mountains and Seas were circulated. Come down, only a few fragments of monsters are spread among myths and legends. Only the classic of Mountains and Seas records more than 200 monsters clearly, completely, and systematically. Chapter 35, Compose Our Own Myth. To know in each round of civilization trials, only one kind of monster will appear. Even if the ancient ancestors did not clear all levels, it is enough to explain. They have gone through more than 200 rounds of civilization trials before they can record such detailed monster information. Think of this, everyone present looked shocked. The Earth has only now encountered the first round of civilization tests, and countries around the world are already in a state of distress, pessimism, and despair unimaginable. What kind of courage did the ancient ancestors persevere through more than 200 rounds of trials? I still have a question. Even though there are more than 200 monsters recorded in the classic of Mountains and Seas, how do you confirm that the ancient ancestors were not destroyed in more than 200 rounds of trials, but that they passed the trials? Where are you practicing? At this moment, another reporter stood up to question Yang Yamo past the trial and went through more than 200 rounds. Are two different concepts. Because, the battle of chasing deer. Yang Yamo seemed to have anticipated this problem a long time ago and opened the Book of Mountains and Seas. By best-selling books online, one of the records was found. Huang Di and Qi Yu fought decisively in Zhulu, and in the end Huang Di won miserably and lifted up the clouds. Everyone was stunned for a moment, somewhat unclear. Every Chinese knows about the Battle of Zhulu. Huang Di defeated the invading Qi Yu tribe, unified the 9 states, and became the humanistic ancestor of China, the current Chinese civilization. It has been handed down since the Huang Di period. The Yellow Emperor has never been a reference to someone, but the totem tribe of our ancient ancestors, which is equivalent to our current national power. Yang Yamo shook his head and patiently explained, and Qi Yu, the same is true. You can check the records about Qi Yu in the Shanhai Jing. He had 8 legs, 3 heads and 6 arms, a bronze head and an iron forehead. He was invulnerable. He was good at using knives, axes, and guns. He ate iron and sand, breathed deadly clouds, and could also flying in the air. Do you think he is a human being? Just finished speaking, the sound of gasping for air rang out again. Looks weird, still an intruder. The Yellow Emperor tribe led the people to fight to the death. The answer is ready to come out. You guessed it right. Yang Yamo nodded and affirmed. The so-called Qi Yu is the last round of monsters that came, with the purpose of destroying the ancient ancestors at that time. According to the records in the Book of Mountains and Seas, Qi Yu was ferocious and cruel, leading the monsters that came in the early stage to launch a general attack on the ancient ancestors. The Yellow Emperor's tribe resisted desperately and fought decisively to chase the deer. By best-selling books online at the beginning, they were retreating steadily. There were countless casualties. Finally, I asked the 9 Heavens Zuan to come down to earth and release her power, and then I suppressed Qi Yu and his army of monsters. This myth, everyone is familiar with it. I have heard it since I was a child, but, after Yang Yamo explained it, everything changed. Qi Yu was the last round of monsters. He led the monsters in front that had not been wiped out and launched a general attack on the ancient ancestors. The ancient ancestors are about to be destroyed, but they were defeated by the foreign aid of Jiutian Zhuanf. Wait a minute, who is the 9 Heavens Zhuanf? The same question emerged in everyone's mind. It is developed by the ancient ancestors, a quantum concept-level strategic platform for space and space. Yang Yamo didn't show off and said in a deep voice, in the past life, Chinese scientists were inspired by the Book of Mountains and Seas to figure out the final version of the science fiction heavenly plan. By best-selling books online, 9 Heavens mysterious lady looks like a visitor from heaven, but actually it is just an aerospace quantum concept-level strategic platform developed by the ancient ancestors specifically to combat monsters, and loaded with all the strategic weapons of the ancestors at that time. Therefore, the classic of Mountains and Seas records that after its arrival, it bestowed military talismans and commanded battlefields spanning tens of thousands of miles. It set up Kueox drums and the sound shook for 500 miles. It made divine soldiers and spread them among the people, in myths and legends. Jiutian Zhuanf is also the only female fairy who leads the war. Aerospace, quantum, concept level, strategic platform? After hearing Yang Mo's explanation, everyone's eyes widened. The doubts have not been eliminated. On the contrary, there are more. It's a bit too outrageous. Modern civilization has not been able to develop an airborne platform, let alone a quantum weapon system. This is equivalent to a suspended super aircraft carrier, plus a series of unconventional concept-level weapons. Did the ancient ancestors master it 5,000 years ago? If you hadn't mastered these methods, how do you think our ancient ancestors could have lasted more than 200 rounds? Yang Yamo glanced at the crowd and asked calmly. Everyone's reaction was exactly the same as when he first heard the secrets of the classic of Mountains and Seas in his previous life, but after the shock replaced. I am deeply shocked and admired. From the time when the Book of Mountains and Seas was first recorded, it can be seen that the scientific and technological level of the ancient ancestors at that time was far inferior to modern civilization. We haven't even entered the age of electricity, but, with the opening of the civilization trial. In the wilderness, monsters are rampant and eat people. In order to fight and survive, the ancestors were forced to research and find a way to save the nation. In the classic of Mountains and Seas, many biogenetic laboratories, strategic weapons bases, etc. are recorded. In Kunlun Mountain, there is an elixir that can increase lifespan. Buzhou Mountain has a 4-dimensional pillar weapon spanning the sky and the earth. It's just, monsters are also extremely intelligent. Yang Mo sighed lightly, and his tone was extremely serious. In order to destroy ancient civilizations, they have launched many annihilation plans. They broke through the Buzhou mountain, causing the heavenly pillar to collapse and destroying the four-dimensional heavenly pillar weapon established by the ancient ancestors. They broke the space cracks and poured endless floods from the sky into the world. They sent 9 golden crows across the sky, and 10 scorching suns shined across the sky, drying up all water sources. They one by one. Every plan of annihilation is a devastating blow to any civilization, but the ancient ancestors were not defeated. Indomitable, they firmly believed that man can conquer nature and that everything depends on oneself. Buzhou Mountain was broken, so they rebuilt four-dimensional space-based weapons. The sky cracked, so they sent the Nuwa spaceship into the cracks in space to repair the sky. More sun, it can be said. The classic of mountains and seas is a history of the vigorous struggles of our ancient ancestors for the continuation of the race. Countless people came one after another. Throw your head and shed your blood. One incredible plan after another was implemented. These stories spread to later generations and evolved into myths and legends. As for why I said that the ancient ancestors passed the customs, Yang Mo paused for a moment and said in a deep voice, "That's because it is recorded in the Book of Mountains and Seas that the world is now settled, the 9 states were unified, and the Yellow Emperor also lifted up the clouds and soared, leaving the earth and heading towards the vaster universe." Then he slowly raised his head, looked at the camera with a deep and distant gaze. As if looking at everyone watching the live broadcast at this time, compatriots, what I want to tell you is that the trial of civilization is both a crisis and a blessing. 5,000 years ago, on this land, the ancestors went from drinking blood as raw materials to rising into the clouds, writing a magnificent epic. 5,000 years later, similarly on this land, we in China should also believe that man can conquer nature, pass trials, and write our own myths. The classic of mountains and seas, there are quite a lot of magical things. Many researchers speculate that alien species came to the earth in ancient times, and that the ancient ancestors mastered many extraordinary technologies. Anyone who is interested can learn more. Chapter 36, The mentality of the whole people has changed, and China will definitely pass the test. Finished. Yang Mo bowed deeply towards the camera on site. There was thunderous applause, which lasted for a long time. Everyone's face was red, their expressions were excited, and endless pride surged in their chests. Inspiring. Backstage of the press conference, well said. Wang Yu's face turned red and he clapped his hands vigorously. What Yang Mo said just now, it completely spoke to his heart and made him excited. Indeed, the ancient ancestors went from being humble and drinking blood to ascending into the clouds, completing an epic feat. The same can be done. Man can conquer nature and strive for self-improvement. This is something inherited from our ancestors and engraved in the bones of every Chinese. 5,000 years ago, the ancestors could do it. 5,000 years later, they can do it too. China, never die. This press conference also achieved unprecedented success. At the same time, China, after the press conference, countless people were still immersed in shock. Can't help myself. The trials of civilization 5,000 years ago, the secrets and the classic of mountains and seas, the desperate struggle of our ancestors, everything, they all suffered an unprecedented impact on their minds. 5,000 years ago, all civilizations at that time were destroyed, and only the ancient Chinese civilization remained. The ancient ancestors were too awesome, they really cleared the level. Overcome all trials. Brilliant. Huaxia. I probably understand what Dean Yang means. Each round of the civilization trial will be settled. If you can pass them all, you can get more than 200 rounds of rewards. All over the country, countless people murmured to themselves. His expression became brighter and brighter. Original. They, like people in other countries, are full of anxiety and worry about the civilization test, but after listening to the magnificent struggle history of our ancestors, quietly. Everyone's mentality has changed. The classic of mountains and seas, various myths and legends are recorded. Buzhou mountains fell, Nuwa patched up the sky, Hui shot down the sun, they all tell the story of the horrific disasters that the Chinese ancestors suffered. But, in times of despair, our ancestors never gave up hope. Forcibly find a way out of the desperate situation. Compose our own myth. Everyone quietly clenched their fists and murmured softly. From this moment on, a lot of their fear and worry about the trials of civilization have dissipated. Official website of Monster Research Institute, live broadcast room. As Yang Mo's last words came to an end, tens of millions of online viewers became excited. The barrage was overwhelming, densely packed. I can't see what is being said at all. My ancestors were so awesome. They developed the Jiutianzhuan airborne platform, and the whole country soared, leaving the Earth? More than 200 rounds of trials mean that there are also more than 200 rounds of rewards. Our rewards in the first round are so outrageous. If we get all the rewards, maybe we will also the whole country can soar. The second round of trials is about to begin. Why am I still looking forward to it now? Everyone seems to have been injected with chicken blood. Emotions are running high, extremely excited. Some people even said that they plan to find a monster from the second round to challenge. This generation of netizens are too arrogant. Zhao Ziyan looked at the situation in the live broadcast room and smiled helplessly. Ever since I heard Yang Mo's words, "Write your own myth," the live broadcast room has been out of control. The mentality of tens of millions of viewers has undergone earth-shaking changes, from the original anxiety and worry to the unprecedented expansion now, keeping shouting. He completely ignored the monster that was about to come. It's a pity that I don't know what kind of monster is coming in the second round, otherwise I would have to teach him how to be a human being. Didn't Dean Yang say that? The Classic of Mountains and Seas is the Ancestors, the Civilization Trial Manual. Left behind records all the monsters in the Civilization Trial. I have just placed an order and bought a copy of the Classic of Mountains and Seas. I will study it first. Damn it! I just opened a certain treasure and found that the Book of Mountains and Seas is out of stock. You guys were so quick to grab it. Chatting. In order to be able to fight monsters one-on-one, tens of millions of viewers reacted and began to rush to buy the Classic of Mountains and Seas. After Yang Mo's analysis, no one regards the Classic of Mountains and Seas as an ordinary ancient book anymore. The monsters recorded in it will come to the Earth as rounds of civilization trials begin. Learn about monsters in advance. There is 100 benefits and no harm. Maybe you can prepare in advance and give those monsters that. Come a little shock. Liangcheng. A bookstore. Zhou Yuman sighed as he looked at the sparse storefront. In recent years, with the rise of online shopping, it is becoming increasingly difficult to open offline physical bookstores. Business is going from bad to worse. Sometimes I can't sell more than a few books in a day. Especially, Liangcheng has just encountered a monster crisis and is still in the post-war recovery period. 2 days in AROW.NO customers came to the door. He even already considering whether to change careers. Boss, do you sell the Classic of Mountains and Seas in your store? Suddenly, a voice interrupted Zhou Yuman's thoughts. Yes. Zhou Yuman nodded quickly and skillfully took out a translation of the ancient book, The Classic of Mountains and Seas, from a bookshelf somewhere. The other party was also very happy. I paid the money quickly. Finally, there is business. Zhou Yuman's eyes were slightly red and his mood was quite complicated. Just when he thought he had only one customer a day, outside the bookstore, suddenly a group of people ran towards his shop door, quickly pulling against each other, looking anxious, afraid of being overtaken by others. With the 100% physical bonus for everyone, these people can run as fast as Bolt. It was like a gust of wind passing by. He quickly rushed into his shop. Boss, do you have the Classic of Mountains and Seas? I'm here first. Can you guys have some skills and line up? I have a question. Ask the boss. I am half a body ahead of you. Who came first? The crowd was excited, slapping the table, argued. They refused to give even a step. Zhou Yuman looked at the desk covered with slap marks in shock and couldn't help but swallow his saliva. After some inquiries, he was surprised to find out these people, like the first customer, are here to buy the Classic of Mountains and Seas. Why is the Classic of Mountains and Seas suddenly so popular? He was a little confused and didn't understand what was happening until, after listening to everyone's explanations, he couldn't help but take a breath of air. The monsters in the Classic of Mountains and Seas are the monsters of the civilization trial? Endure the shock. He walks silently to the bookshelf. I have a private collection of the Classic of Mountains and Seas. At the same time, China bookstores everywhere. There was a buying frenzy after the Classic of Mountains and Seas cannot be purchased online. Many people thought of the bookstore and rushed in aim to grab the Classic of Mountains and Seas, except for the original ancient books. Even the Children's Book of Mountains and Seas Atlas, the colored version of the Classic of Mountains and Seas and the Atlas of Strange Animals, and the Children's Book of Mountains and Seas, etc., were all sold out.